Snake is a top tier character, and he's probably one of the most unique characters to himself. So I'm gonna go into a match with me versus ApolloKage, and let's get into it. So the first thing you have to ask yourself when you're fighting Snake is how you're gonna deal with grenades. Obviously you don't want to get hit by them, that's the worst case scenario, but you also have to consider how much the grenade has been cooked before you try to use it against Snake. So you do have to pay attention to how long it's in Snake's hands before he drops it, how long it's been active in general. When it comes to avoiding it, avoiding is a simple concept, but using it against Snake is a little more tricky depending on how active the grenade has been. One of the other things about fighting Snake is his ledge trapping is really good. He does a lot of preemptive setting up, and he has a lot of active things going on. So the stage you go to might be pretty important here. Getting off the ledge might be particularly hard because of the stage layout. So I think against Snake, you might want to particularly think about what stage you go to more than most characters. Right here, I went PS2 anyways, but it's still something that should be on your mind. And also right here, when it comes to taking the stock, so Snake doesn't have a lot of air mobility or crazy landing aerials, but he does have a lot of B reverses with his grenade and his C4, along with having Cypher and just recovering high in general. So right here, I'm just covering this general area because my hitboxes are so big, I'm not worrying about hitting the grenade and hurting myself. This is another thing you're going to want to look out for when you're fighting Snake, his burst option dash attack. So the front of Snake's body is invincible, like his arms there, and it's going to be something that he's clearly going to want to do out of the corner. So be careful when it comes to pressuring Snake, because a lot of the time you might be pressuring him and trying to deal with the grenades, but you have to be careful with his burst range because he will burst at you. Snake's shield was heavily damaged, and because of his lack of mobility and like he's not much of a jumper, then I just use a super active move, just covering a bunch of space. And because he had such a lack of shield, it was also likely he wasn't going to set up too many explosives. As soon as I hit Snake off stage, the priority is the high recovery, because if he recovers low, I can reposition and hold my advantage still. But if I let him get away with the high recovery, that's a lot more difficult to deal with. So it's always the priority, especially if you have something threatening. And notice how here, when the match is even at the beginning, I'm very quick to go back to navigating and playing more on the defensive, right? And maybe trying to see if I can find any moments to use the grenade against him. But it's important to pay attention to, the grenade's purpose is very different depending on when it's actually thrown at you. Like right there, that's a grenade I can use. But this one that he's dropping and throwing on the ground, less likely. So a big mistake I'm making here is I'm not making the most of my range to deal with the grenades. I'm trying to get my close quarters combos going, and I'm slowly starting to lose my lead. So for a brief summary of everything when it comes to fighting Snake, one of the most important things for me personally is separating the uses for how I deal with grenade. That depends on how long the grenade has been on the screen for. The less time, the more likely I am to use it against Snake, and the more time it's been on the screen, the more I just focus on avoiding it. Stage you want to go to because of Snake's setup ledge trapping. So you want to try to focus on stages where you can escape the corner and get off the ledge a little easier if possible. And you also really want to focus on covering Snake's high recoveries, because oftentimes he's going to preemptively try to go as high as he can to avoid the corner and the ledge and give himself some more room for his B reverses and whatnot and disadvantage. And that's another thing to focus on, is when you're hitting Snake, to be wary of the one frame grenade pull. You don't want to trade or take too much damage while in your own advantage state. So those small little resets and dashing back and trying to see where you can get grabs and trying to focus on where they might be spot dodging, or maybe if you even have moves that outrange the grenade explosion, can also go a long way as well.